Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to La Soufrière today, where we answer some of your frequently asked questions on the ongoing eruption of La Soufrière eruption in St. Vincent, of course. And with us this morning is Mr. Roderick Stewart, who is the newest team lead on island, and he is a SRC scientist who is based at the Mondstadt Volcano Observatory. Good morning, Rod. How are you doing?
Good morning, Stacey. I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit, Rod, what is your role as a volcano seismologist? How is that different from a regular seismologist that we're used to at the SRC?
Okay, I mean, a regular seismologist studies earthquakes. The earthquakes happen all around the world, small ones, big ones, and they only have one mechanism, which is just a cracking of the earth. We call them shear earthquakes, but that's what they study, and it's a very, very important thing to study. The volcano seismologist studies earthquakes that are particularly associated with a volcano. Now that includes some that are similar in mechanism to the ones all around the world, and we actually call them volcano-tectonic earthquakes. But we have other earthquake types that are particular to volcanoes, called hybrids, long periods, tremor, rockfalls, B-types. So there's lots of names. And what actually identify those different earthquake types and count them, because the different types and how many of them are occurring can tell us what is happening underneath the volcano.
So thanks for that explanation. And as a volcano seismologist, Rod, what kind of signals would you expect to see at La Soufrière that might indicate a move towards explosive activity?
At the moment, we're getting earthquake signals, but they're all very, very small, and they're associated with the dome itself. And the indication is that there's no pressure buildup. So, and this is not 100%, but if we were moving towards explosive activity, we would expect to see things that indicate that it's a pressure buildup. And the classic progression would be we'd start getting VTs, then they'd move to hybrids, then they'd move to long period, then they'd move to tremor, and then there's an explosion. But that's not always the sequence. But I would expect some sort of change in the activity, basically to show pressures building up. We could have explosions, small explosions, without a pressure buildup due to maybe a big rockfall on the dome. But for the larger explosions, really expect to see some change in the seismicity that's going on.
So I would assume that that's not what's happening now. I mean, that leads me to the question, what's going on with the volcano now? Are we seeing those kinds of signals, or what's the latest update on La Soufrière?
That's the thing. Ever since the activity started at the beginning of the year, all we've really seen are these small seismic signals associated with the dome growth. We've only had a handful of VTs, and a handful is not a lot. We would expect to see swarms of hundreds of them. So really, the volcano hasn't changed what it's doing since it started. The dome is slowly growing, and it's growing quietly. That itself could cause other hazards, but at the moment, there's no other sort of seismic signs going on.
And so does that mean that we should be a bit relaxed about it, or
No.
should we still be on alert?
No, we should. Well, volcanoes are dangerous things. For one, we shouldn't be close to it. Things can happen close on the dome with very little warning. If you look at the volcano like I'm looking, there's a large amount of vegetation that's been destroyed by the gases. So it's not a good thing to approach closely. And these things might change quickly. So I say we expect some activity, but it might happen very quickly. So we have to be very, very prepared to react. And this is where NEMO comes in, and the plans that they have, the zoning, the outreach. It's very important that people know what to do if a change is made in the alerts from this volcano. There is another problem that we face, is it continues to grow slowly with no explosive activity. At some stage, it's going to grow over the rim of the existing crater. And that puts us into another type of hazard. We can then start seeing collapses into the valleys around the volcano, which will be a very serious problem. So we can't relax. Maybe we're fortunate that we have this relatively quiet period that we can get all our equipment and our plans and procedures in place. But we should not be complacent. We should always be aware of what's going on.
And I think you're right. I agree that, you know, having this time is important now. And that's one of the things that you're doing while you're there as well. You're training some of the local technicians, building capacity. Can you just let us know a little bit more about that?
Definitely. We have lots of monitoring equipment here. We're maintaining it. There are technicians already in place to help maintain it. But it's not the optimal thing to do the monitoring from either Trinidad or from Montserrat. Some of it can be done, but we need local capacity, because it's very important as a seismologist that, as well as looking at the data around me, I see the volcano at the same time. So we have been working with volunteers before I came, but I'm particularly working with some local volunteers to try and teach them some elements of seismology, also how to keep the computers running, because that's the most important part, is keeping the data processing running. So we're working with them so that hopefully we will build up the local presence, the local expertise. And I know that this is something that NEMO and the government are looking at, to make sure that the observatory here at Belmont, the Soufrière monitoring unit, does have resources that will allow this volcano to be monitored, because we really don't know how long this is going to go on for. Even if it stopped tomorrow, we would want to be keeping monitoring it closely for quite a long time. So we need to build up local capacity, but of course they will be supported. They will have the support of people in Trinidad, of people in Montserrat. Always happy to do that, because we're all part of the same team, but we do need to get some local capacity.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for the update, Rod, and we'll continue to keep in touch. We'll see you next week, Monday, for our update. And we remind our viewers that the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, and the UESRC are the official sources of information on the volcano, and that visits to the volcano this time are strictly prohibited. Thank you very much, and take care.
Thanks, Stacey. Bye.
Bye.